For the 11th time, the Octagon is headed back to London. In the main event, the #3 ranked Brit Darren the Gorilla Till takes on hardened veteran Jorge Gamebred Masvidal in a pivotal matchup for the UFC welterweight division. A Muay Thai master, Till was an instant success when he joined the UFC in 2015. His meteoric rise was capped off with his first UFC title shot after just 6 fights. Now, with his eyes still firmly on the prize, Till has the opportunity to stay in title contention with a win in front of his passionate home fans. Since making the move up to the 170-pound division, Jorge Masvidal has picked up notable wins against Ross Pearson, Jake Ellenberger and Donald Cowboy Cerrone.
Masvidal working the body, and that is it!
As he heads into enemy territory, Gamebred now has a chance to put himself in the mix of the division's top contenders with a win over the former title challenger. Hello and welcome along to UFC Inside the Octagon. John Gooden back with Dan Hardy as usual. And we are going to be looking at the main event for UFC London, a home show for us, Dan, but also for a guy that's in the main event. So Jorge Masvidal, he's had a few problems with Brits recently. He was going at it with Michael Bisping. Apparently had a fight lined up with Leon Edwards. But he gets to do the dance with Darren Till in London. That's a great matchup, right?
It is a great matchup, a great opportunity for him as well, because, you know, he struggled in his last couple of fights with really high-ranked contenders. Fighting Darren Till, if he gets a win here, it just keeps him right back up in that title contention conversation without him losing too much ground. I mean, it's a bold move, but you would expect nothing less from Masvidal. And
also Till coming back off of his failed bid to grab gold. It's a big fight for him.
It is a big fight, but he's got the opponent that he wants now in Masvidal, someone that's going to stand in front of him and is going to want to throw punches with him. The danger with Woodley, obviously, is Woodley's going to hang back and wait and look for that big power shot and the double leg, but Masvidal's a brawler.
He doesn't do that?
No. I'm buzzing for this one, as you know, John. It's going to be a great fight.
All right, well, let's get to the facts and the stats then and see what we can take from how they line up. I mean, there's some interesting stuff here, but
yeah.
Really, though, Dan, that they are similar heights and similar reach, but Darren looks way bigger.
Yeah, I will say that Masvidal has deceptively long arms. You'll see this when he's throwing his punches in fights. He really does cover a lot of distance, and he fully extends his shoulder girdle out so he can, you know, make the most of that reach.
Yeah.
Darren Till's just a bigger individual, though. So
then you've got a lightweight guy that's gone up to welterweight and arguably a middleweight who's pretending to be a welterweight.
He's a bit caught between the two weight classes, and I would say that Masvidal's probably caught between the lightweight and welterweight weight classes. So they're kind of meeting in the middle here a little bit.
Yeah.
But then the conversation about who's going to be the best over 5 rounds based on that, is Masvidal coming up not cutting as much weight, or is Darren Till being the bigger guy, being able to throw him around the octagon going to make a difference? I mean, the reach blows my mind, but the record is no surprise at all. I mean, everybody that knows Masvidal, everyone that's been following combat sports for years will know who Masvidal is, will have seen all of his.
And YouTube as well.
And YouTube, of course. Some of his best fights on YouTube. That's a lot of experience, and that's not even the full story. We know he's got kickboxing and boxing experience, even some of it's probably not been declared. A wealth of experience here, and it's a good person to test Darren Till, who has got a very mature mind as a striker. You know what I mean? He knows how to approach fights and figure people out. And Masvidal's going to be throwing all kinds of spanners in those works just to try and confuse him and throw him off.
And the 20th fight for Darren Till, also, just to say, he's got a lot of Muay Thai fights, like over 50 Muay Thai fights as well. So he's not coming in green by any stretch.
Not at all. And they're going to be far more relevant in this fight because of Masvidal's style of fighting. It's a very Muay Thai style. He likes to kind of edge his way. He's got that little bounce.
Yeah.
I love his style. But Darren Till's a Muay Thai fighter that doesn't really use a Muay Thai style in MMA. I'm going to talk about the Muay Thai skills that he uses, but as far as his actual stance, like, Muay Thai fighters don't stand long like this.
Yes.
It's a very unusual stance. So dealing with Muay Thai skills from a different stance is going to be an interesting problem for Masvidal to solve as well. OK. And
what about some of the actual statistics that we're looking at here?
These are the two important ones. I don't see a great deal of wrestling going on. I would lean slightly towards Masvidal. I mean, you can see his takedown accuracy is higher than Till's. Takedown defence is great on both parts, but I feel like Masvidal may throw the odd takedown in or the odd scramble in just to make the bigger man work, just to be able to close distance and you know, basically smother some of Darren Till's weapons, because Masvidal does do great work on the inside as well.
Yeah.
So I do feel like wrestling might be a part of the game plan, but probably only for Masvidal.
And we got some good finishing stats as well. They do their work quickly, but You know, the real juice is in the analysis, Dan.
Of course it is.
So let's get straight to it then. And Darren Till has come out and said that he wants to get this done early, which is actually, you know, contrary to how he's approached his last two fights. Very patient, looking for the reads. But this time, on the back of that fight against Woodley, sounds like, from the conversations that you've had with him, he's coming out in that first round fast. Yeah,
well, he said he won't be happy with anything other than a first-round finish. And that's very interesting for me because it shows that he's annoyed at his previous fight. He wants to come out and make a big statement in London. But the other thing as well, he wouldn't have said that with Woodley or with Wonderboy because they're not the kind of fighters you can approach very quickly. You can't run Wonderboy down fast and beat him up. You've got to kind of give it the fight time to breathe to kind of figure out what he's going to do. Now, with Masvidal, because he's so set in his ways, because he's such a good striker, but he's not changed a great deal over the years, just, you know, polished and tweaked a few areas, I feel like Darren's going to be more confident in what Masvidal brings to the table. And also, very similar to Cowboy. I mean, that's the fight I've pulled up. Very similar to Cowboy. He's taking on a veteran with a lot of experience who does like to start slow. Cowboy's a slow starter. He likes to feel the fight out a little bit. Masvidal can do very much the same thing. He'll close the fight down, he'll take the space away from you, but he's not necessarily going to put the pressure on you. Now, when Darren Till talks about being a fast starter, that doesn't mean that's not Travis Brown, Andrei Arlovski, let's just punch until someone falls over fast start. There's no berserker mentality there for Darren Till. His focus is pressuring intelligently, but with his foot on the gas.
Right.
Like, he pressured Wonderboy first off, but that pressure was a steady pressure all the way through 25 minutes. Whereas when he stepped in there against Cowboy, part of his game planning, knowing that he can get inside a Cowboy's head if he starts aggressively, he was very more forthright with his pressure, feints, but still didn't really take any shots. There were no points where he overextended himself, where he left himself at risk. And I feel like in the power exchange, I feel like Darren Till's going to feel like he comes out on top. Masvidal's an excellent volume striker, but it's very rare that you see him, bang, land that one shot and people fall over. So Darren Till can push in that first round. It's Masvidal that's got to do the work to kind of hold him back a little bit and cause a deterrent there.
You mentioned when we were looking at facts and stats about the Muay Thai style. Darren's got that background, and Masvidal also stands like a Muay Thai fighter. But let's look specifically at those Muay Thai weapons then, shall we, of Mr. Darren Till?
Well, first of all, let's talk about his elbows. There are different ranges, obviously, in the fight, and there are different weapons that are relevant. But Darren tends to find a technique that he likes, and he finds a way to work it into the fight. Like the way he steps in with his elbows. When you've got someone that steps in with elbows with that kind of confidence as well. I mean, the Velichkovic, we broke this one down before the Woodley fight, actually. Beautiful. How he teased Velichkovic to throw the left hook so he can come inside it and land the elbow. He's a very, very smart fighter in the way that he applies himself, but the style of his technique is very Muay Thai, and the swagger as well, which, you know, I love this. You know, I love watching this. Working the body is going to be big for this fight, and the reason I say that is because Masvidal is going to be walking him down, standing in the pocket. Even if Till's hammering into his arms, it's going to hold Masvidal back a little bit, and it might be able to start a combination where he can start following it with his hands. But I do feel like we're going to see probably the best Muay Thai from both of these fighters in this fight based on the matchup.
On the flip side, Jorge Masvidal, huge experience, particularly in the UFC, inside that octagon. Do you think that the American top team believe that they've seen something similar to Till in the past and therefore are coming in with confidence with the game plan?
Quite possibly. You know, if you think of the American top team, Matt, the guys that are coming through that gym every day, there are so many talented fighters on that mat, so many brilliant minds in that gym, that you're going to be able to kind of find someone that can give you a bit of that look. And even if you can't, the way that Masvidal fights, he doesn't really put himself at a great deal of risk. I often say this about Masvidal. He's got the style of fighting that the fight can go on indefinitely. Masvidal's waiting for that perfect opportunity. He never really overextends himself. He's so good at pressuring in, as you can see here with Ben Henderson. Pressures Ben Henderson back to the fence there without really throwing anything. Now, with Wonderboy, someone that we know spends most of the fight on his bike, Masvidal had a hard job of cornering him, but he did a good job in that last round of walking him onto that left hook. But it's corralling him, it's cutting the octagon off and then forcing him to walk onto your best shots. That's what I was talking about with the reach as well. I don't think many welterweights would have been able to reach Thompson with that left hook, but the way Masvidal commits and fully opens up his chest, really extends the left hook out, I think he might be able to hit Darren more than Darren's expected. I think Darren's expecting him to not only be the shorter man, but to have a smaller reach as well. And I think when they actually start mixing it up, I think Masvidal holds his own in the reach department a lot better than people think.
One thing that Darren Till's very good at is his kicking game. Now, I spent some time with Darren ahead of this camp, and I didn't see him throwing a lot of body kicks and a lot of leg kicks. I don't know if that's because they know that Jorge Masvidal is very, very good at that catch and counter. Quite possibly.
But then if you think about this, if they're training to prepare for this fight, they're preparing for a Masvidal that's trying to stand on your front foot. So that really only leaves elbows and hands available to you.
Right.
If, for any reason, Masvidal decides to stay in kicking range, I'm sure they feel like they've got that covered.
OK.
You know what I mean? Because Darren Till's kicks, as we saw in the Muay Thai playlist, he hammers them into the midsection. The other thing that they might have picked up on is how good Masvidal's defence is with kicks. And with him pressuring people, with him forcing his way inside so he can land hands, oftentimes he's working against kicks. And he does a very traditional Muay Thai kick where he catches it on his elbow and then he hooks it with his lead arm. I mean, we'll see it here. Look, you can see. Let me just show you that one more time as he throws that. And as soon as he's got your time in, he starts looking to counter it. Because, I mean, he knows you're on one leg for a start. He knows that you're in punching range because he knows the length of your leg. So as the kick comes in, he catches it on his back arm there, and then he parries it to the side. And once he's got that hook control, it can be very, very dangerous. And we'll see the throw and catch. Watch this. Watch the barrage that he throws at Ellenberger, keeping a hold of his leg. Those scenarios where catches the leg just buys him a second to move into punching range so he can throw with that power. If he feels like he's going to have to close Darren Till down to land hands, he knows he's going to have to work through the kicking range of Darren Till, which means his defence needs to be on point.
Yeah.
So as he's walking down, if he can start taking those body kicks and catching and countering, then he starts limiting Darren Till's skill set. Darren's like, OK, kicks are off the table because he's catching that. So now I'm to hands and elbows, which is now a lot closer to Masvidal's preferred striking range.
Masvidal needs to speak to his mate Yoel Romero, who's got the pronounced way of catching those kicks.
Absolutely.
So,
no, he's far more clinical and technical with him, Masvidal is. That's why he doesn't get hit very much with those shots.
Yeah, OK. Well, Dan, hold it there. We are going to a break now. Plenty more to come, so stay with us. Welcome back to UFC Inside the Octagon. We are in the middle of previewing the main event for UFC London between Darren Till and Jorge Masvidal. Dan, where are we up to right now? OK, so we've seen Darren Till's ability to start fast and how he applies that pressure. How Masvidal's going to negate that by pressuring himself and then nullifying the body kicks of Darren Till and then looking to counter. So if we assume that Masvidal's now taken the body kick off the table and Darren Till's now thinking, every time I throw that, I'm getting caught with counters, I'm going to take that away, so now I'm going to start focusing on the left hand, which really is where Darren does his best work. Oh, it's money. It's a beautiful technique. And it's not only a very nicely applied technique, he's got the timing and the distance well understood in his brain. He knows the length of his arms, he knows how to move out and counter people right on the end of his shots. But the other thing as well is the way that he throws the left hand, because he drives predominantly off his back foot. And I'll liken this to the way Conor McGregor throws it, because we've talked about how McGregor throws with the fence down his left side. Yes. So as he throws it, he can punch all the way across, and his back leg kind of drags along, fully extends the punch, but obviously there's a danger of the recoil being punished because you're open on that side. Whereas the way that Darren Till does it, he's got good purchase with that back foot, and he rocks his power over. So a lot of the time when he throws the left hand, you'll see his head actually comes off the centre line as well. I mean, look at this. Moves out the way. Look how close that punch is to him. Plants the back foot. Back foot is planted there. So that, think of a lightning bolt, right? If a lightning bolt hits him, he's earthed. That's where the root of the power goes to. It's so important to have this, especially if you're a good counter striker, because Ayari's moving forward here. But look at that. He's posted off this back leg. He's driving over, and you see how his head comes off the centre line as well. I mean, it's a very arching punch, but catches people cleanly with it, gets his head off the centre line. There's far less danger to him when he's throwing that shot. And also, he can hit and he can recoil. He can hit and he can recoil. Same thing again with the Dalby knockdown. Let's just, we've got a nice replay of this, but just watch what he does with his back foot. The back foot is the foundation of the punch. Where are we? So, he's going to step around a minute, he's going to plant his back foot, and watch the support system that he's got for the punch, right?
all the way through his body. That toe is dug into the floor. So whatever's coming to meet him is running onto a solid, immovable object because he's got the base. If he didn't have that strength in his base leg, potential is that punch could be collapsed, especially when someone's moving so quickly. This was a great test for Darren Till against someone that's a very unorthodox striker, someone very similar to Masvidal, who is aggressive, fast, pushes forward. Still catching him with those counter shots, though. You know, he's still able to find those opportunities to land the short, powerful shots. And then once he's dropped you, once you're on the floor, then the Muay Thai striking is applied on the ground as well. His ability to land elbows at close range is absolutely terrifying. And you've got to think, if he puts Masvidal down, Masvidal's a great wrestler. But in the process of getting back to his feet, if Darren Till's landing shots like this and, you know, concussive elbows that are going to start affecting Masvidal's output on the feet as well, then Darren Till starts to find his rhythm a bit better on the feet. He starts to land cleaner shots. I mean, his UFC debut was a beautiful example of how powerful he is at close range. Like, if Masvidal gets caught with a clear shot, with a clean shot, he needs to have the presence of mind to get to safety, get out, get away, cover, but, you know, buy yourself some time, but expect big, powerful shots to come if you show any kind of vulnerability against Darren.
So when we were all sitting down talking about Jorge Masvidal, one thing that we all agreed is overlooked is his kicking game. It's something that in those backyard brawls he was actually using back then.
Right.
But now, obviously, with the years of the grind and the fine-tuning, he does a great job with his kicks. They're a great weapon of his.
They are, and I think that we're seeing them more since he's come to welterweight as well. And the reason for that is because, like I was saying earlier, if he's caught between the two weight classes, the likelihood is when he's fighting at 155, he's bigger than some of the guys he's fighting, which means that he can be a bit more bullyish with his hands. He can walk them down and beat them up because he likes to box. He's a good boxer. Yeah. But against taller guys, we've got longer reach, who have got more powerful hand weapons. Using the kicks is a benefit to him. And I mean, he like sandblasts people with kicks. Every angle, every target, every vulnerability that you show, he's going to make the most of it and still have the presence of mind to get himself out of danger right away. One other thing that's worth keeping in mind as well, because as a prolific kick catcher, if you like, he knows what it's like to have his kick caught, and he's got a secondary attack off the back of it as well, which I didn't even notice until I'd really gotten fully into my research. But one thing you'll notice him doing is he'll throw the kick with the expectation of throwing the right hand straight after it. Right. There it is, look, there it is. Yep. Perfect timing. So just think in this moment, if Darren Till's starting to get wise to this and Masvidal's throwing kicks, Darren's like, OK, I'm gonna try and catch this and counter your kick like you were doing to me, if we're assuming the fight's playing out as I'm saying. So now Masvidal's throwing kicks and Darren Till's going to catch it. But what that does is that takes up this side, that preoccupies your body, your mind with the kick. So if the kick's coming into this side and you're blocking, there's a vulnerability for the straight right there. And it's a very unusual thing to do, to kick and then punch straight off that side. But something that someone that catches a lot of kicks is going to be prepared for. So I expect him to try and stay inside Darren Till's range for the whole fight. Force him onto the back foot. I mean, this is beautiful. It is. And watch the spin kick as well as he circles. Like, again, like he knows the length and the timing of his weapons, how to apply them, when to catch people, forces people to walk onto stuff. I mean, against Cowboy, you know that you're attacking the body against Cowboy. That's what Masvidal did against Cowboy really, really nicely, and that's what opened up the headshot. It
was a masterpiece as well.
It really was. It really was. And you can think, you've got to think, if it's against Darren Till, who's probably not got the work rate that Masvidal's got, he's got to use power shots to keep him off. Whereas if Masvidal's walking him down, beating him up to the body, Darren's arms are going to start to come down. It affects your conditioning when you're taking shots to the body, even if you're blocking them. Yeah. This is also a 25-minute fight. Yes. You've got to bear that in mind. And Masvidal will allow this fight to breathe a little bit. He'll pressure, but he'll pressure intelligently. But if he can start banking things for the later rounds, like hammering the body and deterring Darren's weapons, like catching the kick and countering, those kind of things, I mean, he really sets himself up for a strong championship rounds. One thing that is worth mentioning when it comes to Masvidal, and he's had meetings with the judges about fights that have just slipped away from him, split decision losses where he felt like he'd done enough to win. The criticism of Masvidal is sometimes that he hangs back and waits for the perfect opportunity. Now, if you're fighting someone like Maya or like Wonderboy, that perfect opportunity might not come in 3 rounds. With Darren, obviously, he knows he's going to get someone that's going to meet him with force, so that the opportunities might present themselves sooner. But One thing that Masvidal doesn't want to do is let this fight slip away from him and let Darren outpoint him over 5 rounds. He has to put his foot on the gas. And if he does see there's an opportunity to jump on someone, he needs to chase it. I mean, Darren's not going to let him off the hook if he catches him with a clean shot. Darren's going to try and get back into this fight as soon as possible. He's the younger man coming off an unsuccessful title shot, which is hanging over his head. You know, there's a lot of pressure going into the O2 Arena on Darren's shoulders. And if he gets caught with a clean shot, he's going to want to try and get back to him immediately, which is where Masvidal's volume comes into play. Like, even when people are trying to escape, he's moving around them and he's working them. And these are creative flows. These are not, there's no planning here. He's reading his targets. He's looking for that body shot. He's looking for the opportunity to step back and counter with power shots. This is one of my favorite combinations of Masvidal. And the reason is not his attack, it's his defense. Watch this. Ellenberger's really on the back foot. He's really struggling. He's got one last ditch attempt. He's going to grit his teeth, he's going to dig his toes in, and he's going to throw a big power shot. And there is no, I'm going to pause it right there. There's no signal that this shot's coming. This is, for me, the best argument that Masvidal has got the presence of mind like nobody else in the octagon. I really fully rate his ability to read the situation, because a lot of people, especially getting caught by Ellenberger, would have been put down with this. So Ellenberger's taken, what, 20, 30 shots at this point?
The referee's nearly stopped it.
Exactly. Like, he's on the back foot, he's turned away from his opponent. There's no reason why Masvidal thinks anything's coming back. And Ellenberger drops back, he's cocked his right hand, you can see it. And he's going to throw that over the top. Watch Masvidal just out of the way. Whee! Matrix style. And then straight back in. I mean, I'm going to pull it back and play at full speed just because I want you to see how fast this punch is. Please bear in mind, there was no signal that this punch was coming for Masvidal. There's no reason for him to go, he's throwing a right hand here. This was purely him recognising the shoulder movement, the hand coming around. Look how fast that is. Yeah. I mean, that would have knocked a lot of guys out, especially because he's caught going back, square on his heels, chins out. It's that ability to read his opponent, that ability to see.
Pete Sells, Scott Smith.
There you go.
It could have been that situation right there.
It could, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that could have been a back and forth fight, but without Masvidal being fully present and aware, he would have got caught with that shot, probably dropped.
Last one for you then, Dan. This, to me, and gauging your excitement level from this, and you being a martial artist, of course, but a true sense of fighter. 2 guys coming into London. Yeah. Do they embody that? Yeah, better than anybody else on the roster, honestly. You look at the way that these guys fight. One of my favourite things with Darren Till is the ping of the shorts. You know, it's just such a casual Muay Thai thing. Throws a kick, lands the kick perfectly, pings the short. I love that kind of stuff. Masvidal's the same. You know, the amount of times he'll walk someone down and he'll take the shot, he'll ride the shot on his chin, and he'll come back and he'll laugh at them. You know, that playfulness is going to start from the get-go. It's a fighter's fight, and these 2 guys are there to fuel their ego and to prove to people that they are the toughest men on the planet. And that's the kind of fight that is absolute fireworks when you've got 2 guys like this. Yeah. In the main event.
In the main event.
With
5 rounds.
5 rounds and title contention in the grasp.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be there.
For sure.
What an honour that's going to be.
Octagon side. Can't wait.
All right. Well, that wraps us for this episode of Inside the Octagon. Keep the conversation going using the hashtag Inside the Octagon, the Twitter handle @UFC Europe. Let us know what you think about the show, and we will see you next time.